Our brain constantly changes. Every second is changing, every experience is changing. If I pull your brain out your head, if I did some brain surgery on you right now, which I won't, and I hold your brain in my hand, it's not going to do anything. I can look at it all day long. You dead, nothing in your body will function. No genome, no genetic activation, nothing will happen, no genes will switch on. But the fact that you are alive and I haven't done that, the only reason your brain and genes are doing anything is because of your thinking, feeling, and choosing. It's firing them up. It is the switch on. Your thinking, feeling, and choosing switches your genes on. We own our thinking, feeling, and choosing. And that's the mind, that's the I factor. That's the part that we have not done enough research on, that I've spent 30 years myself researching. We've got to focus on that, because otherwise I can use my brain as an excuse for everything, which is the day and age we live in. You can't make the relationship work. They've got ADHD, that's why they've got this, they've got that, that's why. No, that's not why. Those are effects.
I can be raised in the same household, experience the same challenges, same divorce, same parents, I'm a twin. Everything could be identical, the same experience. By 20 years old, I can still view the world in a different way than you.
You've done it from birth. You've done it from birth, totally different. This is why we see studies of identical twins where you'll have one that's in old age and one gets Alzheimer's and one is still firing up and still going along. You know, how you perceive things makes your body work for you or against you. Your mind is moving through your brain. Your brain builds that perception physically into your brain. So you're thinking, feeling, choosing, moment by moment of every day. And if I take a scenario where I'm constantly seeing a negative, so if I have now for more than 63 days constantly thought in a certain way, I have built a very strong tree in my brain. A tree is a thought. Our thoughts are real things. They look like trees. They occupy mental real estate. They're made of proteins.
I agree there 100%.
They are total. Right now you are growing at the speed of 400 billion actions. You're converting my words, and so the listeners, into trees in their brain. But now if you've got a habit, if you've done something for years, and you've thought in a way for years, because of an experience, because of environment, so there's nurture, you're born with this wired for love design. We're in nurture, environment, and all the other stuff you described. Now there's the I factor. The two twins going through life, same thing, but how they're seeing it. So each experience is now adding more and more layers to my initial core. So here I am born, but here I am perceiving. I may perceive the two twins. One perceives a relationship in this way, one perceives a situation in this way. Two different networks build in the brain. And as you keep thinking in that certain way, so you strengthen. Whatever you think about the most grows into a toxic thought.
I see
so
that.
That's the pattern.
I fully see that.
You can train a person very easily to stand back, observe their own thinking, because it's neuroscience, it's how we are designed, it's quantum physics, it's all of that. You can stand back and observe your own thinking, and you can show someone, can you see that you're being negative? Can you see that is, and you can, so by showing people, there's always a way for someone to see it, but not everyone will choose to do that. So if someone has done something and they've been doing it for more than 63 days, they have wired a pattern into their brain, like a pathway. It looks like a toxic tree. That's why I use this. It's a real protein. It's all computers. And those computers have been very, very established. It takes 21 days to build a long-term memory. It takes 63 days minimum to build a habit, not 21 like we've been told, 63. Anything after that, you're going to expert level. So if I have for 6 years been worrying, I'm an expert warrior. It doesn't mean that's who I am. It's who I've become. So I can unbecome. It's hard work. I'm going to have to do a lot of mind work. I'm going to have to do a lot of mind management to use emotional signals like depression and anxiety. And I'm going to have to use that to find out what is the cause of why I'm so negative. Now, even a long-term memory can be reconceptualized. And that means I'll always remember, so let's say, for example, someone sees the glass half empty and they've just been in that, and it's just like, oh, these people are just always going to see the negative first. Every business meeting, they just always see the negative. But that person can change. They become an expert in being negative, but they can actually unwire that. They can get to the point where it's a lot of work. You've got to go through the pain of doing it, which people don't want to in this day and age, but you can change that and reverse that process.
What's the 5 step?
So the 5 steps, first of all, is gather.
Gather.
Gather, that's a big word for embrace, acknowledge.
Embrace that you have an issue.
Got to accept there's an issue.
What's the second one?
Second one is you've got to reflect. It's a deep reflection. It's a process. This is the most painful part. It's like a surgeon will say, my friends, I've got a lot of doctor friends, and they'll say that they've got to first cut up the patient to heal them. So you've got to go through the pain before, got to hurt you to heal you. So that's this whole process is hard. I'm not lying, but it's good, and it takes time. It's going to take cycles of 21 days. So the second process is deep reflection, where you are basically trying to track back to, not necessarily back, but why am I doing this?
Are you studying your trends?
You're looking at your trends, your patterns. Okay. So the first thing is to take, okay, I'm depressed. This is an emotional warning signal. My body's got physical warning signals. So you're embracing the emotional and physical warning signals from the environment and from yourself. You're then thinking about these. Okay, so why am I always negative, or why am I always depressed? Why am I anxious? And as you go through that process of self-reflection, you're getting to the point where you're just trying to it's there every day. It's a little bit to the point where you find, okay, well, maybe this is at the end of 21 days. You see, I'm anxious because I'm actually trying to be a perfectionist. I'm trying to control everything in my environment, and it's not quite working out. Or maybe it's because there's a trauma that you've never dealt with. The third thing is we've got to genetically process. So what we've got to do is we've got to make our brain do stuff. We've got to write. The third process is write. When you write, you're clearing out a lot of, and when I say write, it's like literally throw it on the page. Because you'll see my sequence that I've developed. You literally spend 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes doing each of these. So you would gather for 1.5 minutes. You would reflect for 1.5 minutes. You would write for 1.5 minutes. And then you would recheck. Now, recheck is a process where you go back and look for your patterns, your triggers, your what does this mean? So if you think of it, I've become aware of something going on. I am reflecting, why am I feeling? I'm starting to get to the root, because it's only 1.5 minutes and you must move on. You're writing that down. So maybe a bunch of jumble that you write down. Your recheck looks at your jumble and tries to get some level of order. Then you go to, as you get that level of order, you say, okay, what's my little tiny task for today? And it may be as simple as, when I feel this anxiety coming on, I'm going to compartmentalize it, and I'm going to only worry about it tonight at 6 o'clock. But in 1.5 minutes, there's only a little bit of information you've gathered, which is the point. You must only get a bit every day, not everything every day. We can't solve it all. Rome was not built in a day. It's little things change over time. We try and fix it quick. You can't get there. It's a process. You have to dig it out of your unconscious. It's a deep, investigative, detective process that you're doing. So let's say now that you start seeing, okay, I'm worrying because of this, or I'm negative, and I'm starting to get a glimpse of, well, maybe it could be this, or maybe, so what can I do today as a little activity? Active reach.
Okay.
Active reach.
Got it.
And active reach is then, if I see that, let's take the worrying thing, I wake up and I'm worrying. It's like the day I'm stuck. So I say, okay, I'm aware that I'm worrying. All I've worked out today, it's day one. I've just worked out that I actually never stop worrying. So cool. What's my active reach? As I worry, as that hits me in the face, I'm going to say, okay, this worry I can't deal with now. I'm going to deal with tonight. So now it's 6 o'clock in the morning, I'll deal with it 6 o'clock tonight. As you go through the day,
your worries.
It is that, but also what happens is you take the energy away from the worry. Every thought you build is a real living thing. It has energy, it's firing energy. So if I take this worry, toxic, and I say, okay, keep quiet, you're in a box, I'm not going to deal with you, and you discipline yourself not to think about it, and by the time 6 o'clock tonight comes, 12 hours later, that thing's lost energy. Back in the 80s, I was trained that the brain couldn't change. I challenged that. I did work with people that had traumatic brain injury, like major, that had been written off by neurologists and neurosurgeons. And through deliberate and intentional building of the brain, learning, growing the brain, studying daily, went back to university, ended up finishing school, getting high grades, and this kid had been written off as a vegetable. And I've seen that happen way too often, not just me, there's many scientists who have since shown that when you use your mind, your brain will change.